Hi everyone, this is Dark Storm Comic Reviews here, and today we're going to do another movie review slash discussion. Normally on my channel, if you want to call it that, we do like comic book based reviews, but today we're going to do a movie review slash discussion like the last ones I did with my Spider-Man movie reviews. And today we're going to be talking about Morbius. I'm going to be talking about Morbius, why I think it's such an awesome movie, and why I don't get the hate that's getting, like, thrown on it. I mean, people are just, like, hating on this movie like crazy, and I feel like it's really undeserved, and it's honestly really ridiculous. And before you say anything, no, I'm not trolling. This isn't, like, a late April Fool's prank joke or whatever. I'm not saying it's awesome to be sarcastic. I really love this movie. I thought it was awesome. I thought it was a breath of fresh air from what we're getting a lot in superhero movies right now, and I thought it was really creative in a lot of ways, and I'm going to go through that. And don't be fooled by this video. This isn't a comic book review. I'm just using this as like something interesting to look at while I talk, so you're not just staring at my lap the whole time, because, yeah, so, and also, this cover is just really cool. Like, I could have thrown up, like, the movie trailer or whatever, and, like, was focusing on just the movie name or whatever, but that would have just been boring. So instead, you're going to get a cool comic cover. It's based off of a Venom limited series in a graphic novel called Venom: The Enemy Within, and it is Venom: The Enemy Within, which is a Morbius / Venom crossover. And it's pretty awesome. It's got Morbius here, based off his look that you see in the movie, at the end of the movie, if you watch the movie. And you have Venom here, they're like attacking each other, and then you got another comic book character called the Demo Goblin, who's like, he's like Green Goblin or Hobgoblin, and then you got the cover. But yeah, that's not the point of this, but still a cool cover. Maybe they'll adapt this into a movie. I mean, you never know. Which I'm actually gonna get into also. So, anyways, okay, the movie. I love the movie. I thought it was awesome. I've seen it a total of 3 times already. I saw it by myself. I saw it with my dad. Saw it with a friend. My friend loved it. I loved it. Okay, and here's the reason why I love this movie and why I think it's so awesome and why it's already underrated and it just came out and people are bashing on it for no reason. They think this movie is like one of the worst movies ever, like all the critics out there and everything. And again, if you don't like this movie, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with, I want to make this clear. I don't have a problem with what you like, what you don't like. I'm totally cool with that. But I feel like this movie is getting hate for no reason. Like they're just hating on it to hate on it, which, they're allowed to do so, but I do think it's unfair to a degree. And I'm gonna tell you why I love Morbius and why I think you should support it. So we're just gonna, by the way, this is gonna be spoilers. I'm just really gonna get into this movie. It's gonna be spoilers, so be warned. Spoilers. Yep. And I'm gonna talk about why you should support this movie, why you should go see it, and why I freaking loved it. Why I think it's awesome, and why I love what Sony is doing right now with their superhero movies. I'm a strong supporter of Sony. I like what they're doing with their superhero movies, and we're gonna get on into that. Okay, but let's start out with the movie. So, I guess I'll tell you a little bit about the movie. So the movie is about a guy named Michael Morbius. He's this doctor. He's this brilliant scientist. He created this. He has this disease in his blood that makes him walk. He walks like a disabled person. He has to use crutches to walk and stuff. So the blood disease, makes him disabled. It makes him walk, like a person with a disability. He has to use crutches everywhere he goes. And there's no cure for his blood disease. So his whole mission as like a doctor is to like find a cure for his blood disease. And he's created like artificial blood. He's like very, very smart. He's very much of a genius. And Jared Leto does such a good job, which I'll get into more, but Jared Leto does such a good job as Morbius and portraying him as a doctor and as like a disabled person. But anyways, plot-wise, he's trying to find a cure for his blood disease for him and his friend, Lucius, also known as Milo. Basically, Lucius is Morbius' friend's actual name, but Morbius calls him Milo as like a little joke, because it's just like a little side joke. But anyways, both Morbius and Milo grew up in like this hospital where they both have a blood disease, the blood disease that there's no cure to. Like they both have this blood disease that they can't find a cure to and that they can't fix. And Morbius is like, Morbius is like, I want to find a cure for us. I want to find a cure for our blood disease. It's just like this missing puzzle piece. And if I can find it, I can cure both me and I can cure you, Lucian, Morbius' friend. So Morbius basically wants to cure his blood disease and cure his friend's blood disease, because they both, I think, have the same blood disease. And they're both disabled. They both have to use crutches to get around. And so Morbius decides to cure their blood disease by splicing bat DNA into his DNA, which will enable them to like suck blood and will enable them to be healthier and able to cure their blood disease. And so basically, the process works. Morbius, he goes on a trip to Costa Rica. He goes to this bat cave. He ends up cutting himself on his hand and like putting his hand on the glass. If you've seen the previews, you know what I'm talking about. He leads all these bats to him. And, and basically what happens is he brings all those bats back from Costa Rica to his laboratory at Horizon Labs, which, if you've read the Spider-Man comics, Horizon Labs is where Peter Parker worked at in the comics for a short time. So that's pretty cool, the Spider-Man Easter egg, Horizon Labs. And so he's working at Horizon Labs with his assistant, Dr. Martine Bancroft. Yeah, that's her name, Martine Bancroft, who's also from the comics. I haven't really read, side note, I haven't really read any Morbius comics, I'm going to be honest with you. The Venom series with Morbius is the only Morbius comics I've really read, other than maybe like the What If Six-Armed Spider-Man comic and the 90s Spider-Man cartoon. But that's all the knowledge I have of Morbius. Now, Venom, I have both a lot of comic book knowledge and movie knowledge on Venom. Morbius, not so much. Most of the information I get from him is the animated series from the 90s and, this Venom crossover and the movie. That's where I get most of my information. But I do look up stuff on YouTube to stay informed. And I'm also a huge comic fan and a superhero movie fan. So I like to see the comparisons between both the comic books and the superhero movies. But anyways, back to what I was saying. So Morbius is at Horizon Labs. He takes the bat DNA and injects the bat DNA into himself. It cures him. He finds out that it works. But then he also finds out that it has like really harmful side effects. He ends up turning into Morbius. And there were two tests actually. There was a test where they did like a test of the vampire DNA onto like a rat and it died, like a lab rat, and then it like came back to life. So Morbius is like, yeah, let's do human trials. So they tested it out on like a boat on international waters. And also Morbius's lab and all his tools and stuff is funded by Milo, his friend. So Milo is funding, Morbius's experiments and stuff because they're both close friends. Although Milo, it's kind of alluded to in the movie that he got his money from doing shady dealings, and it tries to set him up as like the bad guy in the movie, which he is. But anyways, they're on a boat. Morbius gets injected with the vampire DNA. He starts shaking a bit. We're thinking, could this go right? Could it go wrong? Spoiler alert, it goes wrong. He turned into a vampire. He turns into Morbius, the living vampire. And he ends up attacking all the crew on the boat. And one word to describe this, or a couple words, it's freaking awesome. I freaking loved it. It was very dark. It was very, it wasn't like bloody or gory. Like, I don't know. Like other R-rated superhero movies like Blade or Logan, it wasn't like that, but it was still good enough. They were pushing those PG-13 limits, which is something that the MCU doesn't know how to do, I guess, or something, but I like seeing it in this movie. They really did try to push those limits. I mean, you do get to see a guy's throat slit. You don't see a lot of blood, but you see his throat slit because Morbius uses his vampire claws to slit the guy's throat. Really, really cool. And you get to see, I'm trying to remember, he takes one guy and he slams him into something and another thing and he throws him down. There's this cool moment where, he breaks out of Morbius breaks out of the cage and he just super speed, takes some of these guys out, and then he jumps on one guy, he uses his claw and he slashes down on him, and it's really, really good action. Really, really, really good action. But yeah, anyway, so, and later on, and by the way, his friend Martine ends up getting she trips and falls when she's on the boat, and she ends up knocking herself out. And after all that, after killing all those guys and everything, Martine's alive, by the way, She just like tripped and fell. She didn't get shot or anything by like the guards, or she didn't get hurt by Morbius or anything. But he jumps overboard. Martina's taken to a hospital. Morbius jumps overboard on the ship, but he alerts like the police and stuff. Like there have been these murders and everything. Like you need to come check this out. Like he's very remorseful. Like Morbius, like Michael Morbius, the actual person, doesn't know what's going on. When the vampire side of him takes over, he can't remember anything, so he's super remorseful. But through looking up like data tapes and stuff, he's able to figure out what happened and what he was doing in his vampire form. So yeah, he feels very sad, guilty, and remorseful. He jumps overboard. Two FBI agents come and they investigate like what happened on the ship, what happened with all these bodies, and they through evidence, through the bite marks, on the neck and stuff, and through finding so Jared Leto's character, he does like what is it? He does what they call origami, paper origami. That's like one of his hobbies that he does. He does a paper origami of like a bat, and they see all like the dead bodies and how they got the fangs injected in the necks of the dead bodies, and then one of them finds like the paper origami bat, and they deduce that, oh yeah, okay, so this guy is probably a blood-sucking vampire. I mean, Venom exists in the universe. In fact, they make references to Venom twice in this. So, I mean, superheroes aren't really a thing in the SonyVerse yet. I mean, we have Venom, but that's about it. But still, if they know what Venom is, then I don't think they'd be too surprised by Morbius. And again, for those of you who don't know, the MCU and the SonyVerse are totally separate things. They're not connected in any way, which, thank goodness, I'm glad they're not, because I'm one of those in the minority that thinks the Sony and Marvel Universe, MCU, should not be connected. I think that would just be ridiculous, and the SonyVerse would be super Disneyfied if that happened. So, I want to make sure I'm being clear. I like the MCU. I think we need more films like this, but I'll get to that. But anyways, get back to the plot. I'm going to try to sum this up because I don't want to spend too much time on the plot. If you get a chance to see this movie yourself, but I'll keep going. So the whole boat scene so Morbius escapes from the boat. He goes and he finds Martine, his assistant doctor, at the hospital, and he goes, he checks on her to make sure she's safe. She is, and then he goes to his lab and he starts like testing out all his abilities. His powers include echolocation, which is really, really cool. He can he's a bat, so he can he has a form of echolocation where he can hear from it's hard to explain. He can hear from really long distances, and he can hear what's going on around the city. He can hear basically everything everywhere, basically. He just has a super high sense of hearing. And it doesn't sound cool when I describe it, but the movie does a good job at visualizing the powers and abilities that Morbius has. Also, he has the ability to, I'm trying to remember. Fly. He has the ability to jump really high. He bites people and sucks out their blood and, vampire stuff. But the way they do it in the movie is really, really awesome. The way they illustrate his powers. But anyways, his friend. Also, his whole thing is when Morbius took the vampire DNA, he was cured. He got a cure, but he was also dealing with the fact that he's now taken over by this vampire side of him when he injected himself with the vampire DNA, so it's kind of like a curse. He it's I love being able to walk again and not be disabled, but also, I want to suck out people's blood, innocent people's blood, and that's not good, so he's and the cool thing is that artificial blood he created, which I mentioned earlier in the movie, he uses that to sustain himself. So he doesn't go after innocent people, and he doesn't go sucking up their blood, going killing innocent people. But the problem is with that artificial blood is that it doesn't last long. He actually keeps a check of how many hours the artificial blood will last long. For a period of time in the movie, it lasts for 6 hours, and it goes down to 4 hours. And he's like, well, artificial blood's not going to last forever. It's going to become ineffective at one point, so I got to choose. I could either go feast on human blood and keep myself satiated and keep myself alive, or I can not drink blood at all, and I can die. So, because if I don't drink blood, my illness comes back, and, and if I don't, and also I'm part vampire now, so if I don't drink any blood, I'll die. So I can either go kill people, or I can die, or I can drink red blood. But then he goes, but I can't ever do again what I did on that boat where I killed all those people, which they were mercenaries, so it's kind of meh. you know, he still shouldn't have done it, obviously. But but also, yeah, you get where he's coming from. You know, he doesn't want to feed on his people because he's a doctor. He tries to help people. And so anyways, his friend Lucius comes by, and basically, I'm gonna try to sum it up. They get into this argument, and Morbius is basically like, this is a curse. You don't need a Milo. You don't need a Milo. And Milo's like, I'm tired of being all handy capable, disabled or whatever. I'm tired of being disabled and dying. Like, give me your vampire DNA so I can inject it and I can be normal again. And And they get into this long argument, and then Morbius is like, no, get out. Like, get out. You don't understand. This thing is a curse. You're gonna turn yourself into a monster. And the guy walks away. Milo walks away. Spoiler alert: he takes the vampire DNA. He injects it into himself, like Morbius did. And Milo, Lucius, we're just gonna call him. The character's name is Milo. We're just gonna call him that. Milo, which is Morbius's best friend, injects himself with the vampire DNA. He goes and he feasts on like a random nurse. The cops think that Morbius is the one who did it because he was the first one to become, a vampire, obviously, and they've been following all the clues. We find out that there's also this really good scene where Morbius is kind of dealing with how he took out if he took out the lady, which of course we know it wasn't him, it was Milo because he's the bad guy. But Morbius is struggling with the fact that basically he's just struggling. It's a really good scene. It actually is a really, really, really good scene. He's struggling with the fact that he might have killed the woman. Like, hey, did I black out? Did I kill this lady? I'm a doctor. I'm trying to help people. I would never hurt a human soul, but at the same time, this vampire side is new to me. Like, I don't have any control over it, and it's taken over me. What if I did kill the lady? And his friend Milo comes to jail, pretending to be a lawyer, even though he didn't. Milo comes to jail to share Morbius and say, hey, you're not a killer. I know you've always tried to help people, but you learn that it's kind of all a ruse, and that, like, it's revealed in the movie that, which if you pay attention to the signs, you can figure it out. I didn't even pay attention the first time, so I was kind of shocked, but I guess it also didn't surprise me. I don't know. But we find out that he did take the vampire DNA. Milo did, and he's normal now. And he just, like, fully accepts being a vampire. Like, he doesn't care at all. He's, like, feasting on people. He's, like, doing all the bad stuff because he doesn't have a moral compass like Morbius does. So Morbius finds out. He gets upset. He drinks Milo leaves Morbius in his prison cell, like, this bag of red blood. Because the whole thing is Milo is also trying to make Morbius accept that he is a vampire now, that he is a bad guy, and that he needs to go feast on as many people as he possibly can. But, due to the fact that, Michael Morbius actually has a moral compass, he doesn't do that. But he does drink the red blood. He needs energy. He needs strength to break out of the jail cell. He doesn't have any other options. He doesn't have, like, the artificial blood to take. So he grabs the red blood sack, rips off whatever's on it, and then just sucks it down like a chocolate shake or whatever. And it's pretty funny, actually, but it's pretty cool. And then he just, like, breaks out of prison. And he goes after Lucius. And again, it's the whole argument of these interactions are... the way I'm talking about it, I probably don't sound like it, but the interactions between Morbius and Milo are really, really good and really, really well handled. Like, every time they were talking to each other, like, I was focused and I was involved. Like, I was like, oh, this is so good. Like, it just feels so real. It feels serious. It's not like that cringy stuff like in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 where Harry and, Peter or whatever talking to Peter, and Harry's like, I need your... what is it? I need your blood, Peter. I need your spider blood, Peter, so I can cure my Osborn disease, Peter. Don't you walk away from it. It's nothing cringy like that. Like, you're a fraud, Spider-Man. Yeah, it's nothing as cringy as that. In my opinion, if you like it, it's fine. I personally think it's really cringy. But the conversations between them are really well handled. And again, they're pulling off their acting chops in these scenes, in my opinion. They're really showing their acting. Matt Smith plays Milo, the villain, and Morbius is played by Jared Leto. So, and they both do such a really, really good job, and I'm going to get into that more. But anyways, they keep getting in arguments, like, Milo's like, you need to accept who you are. You need to accept that you're a vampire, and Morbius is like, no, well, you need to know that you're not the same as you once were. and you took the vampire DNA after I told you not to, and so it's this whole back and forth argument, and we get some really cool like scenes where like there's just one scene where I keep thinking about it. It's where Morbius is chasing Milo when they go into this train station, but the effects are so cool because they flip the train station upside down as they're going into it. So you're like you're following them. You're following the characters and how fast they're going at their vampire speed, and it's really really cool. And so they have a fight, and I'm gonna still get into some more of this. And Morbius learns how to fly, and he flies out of there. Milo just kind of goes insane. The person who plays Milo, Matt Smith, has a lot of cheesy moments, and these are cheesy. These aren't cringe. These, in my opinion, are cheesy. But it's cheesy in a very good way. There's a scene where like Milo kills a bunch of police guards, and he's doing this like little moonwalk dance, and it's just fantastic. It's so funny, like in the best way possible. For some people that might be cringe. For me, I loved it. I love cheesy stuff like that. Stuff that you would see in like an 80s or 90s like action movie or whatever. So yeah, Matt Smith, Milo, like he plays the haminess up. It's perfect. But Milo, he's just feeding on people. He doesn't care. There's even an argument where Milo is arguing with a caretaker. The caretaker actually plays a somewhat important role in the movie. He is the guy who took care. He was at the hospital. He was one of the main guys at the hospital who took care of Morbius and Milo as children. He's also the one who got Morbius to move to New York as a kid, and go to like a really advanced smart school, and he sent Morbius away, not in a mean way. He sent him like to get better. It's not like that whole Norman Osborn thing where like Norman Osborn sent Harry Osborn away because Norman just didn't care about him. No, the other guy is actually genuine and sincere. He sent Morbius off because he doesn't want his talents to be wasted, because Morbius is shown to be a very bright kid. He's like, there's a school in New York. They can pay for your tuition. They can pay for all this. You will go places. And the caretaker basically decides to stay and watch Milo for the rest of his life and take care of him, because Milo obviously needs him more. Like, he's not as independent, I guess, as Morbius. He's more, he needs more help, I guess. And so there's a scene where Milo's back at his house and with the caretaker, and Milo was like, like, I totally accept who I am. Why can't Morbius accept who he is? And they get into this really cool argument where Milo's like, oh, well, you just think Morbius is so much better, You've always loved him better. And then, the caretaker's like, oh, what do you mean, Milo? I've spent years trying to take care of you. I've spent years devoting my life to you. And then Milo was like, oh, you're just ashamed of who I am now, You've always pitied me. And the guy's like, yeah, I don't pity you. I'm upset because of what you've become and what you're doing. I don't approve of it. And he's trying to help him out, and one thing leads to another, and, Milo ends up killing him really gruesomely. Like, I'm not kidding, guys. Sorry. I'm not kidding, guys. This movie really pushes the PG-13 limits, and I loved every minute of it. Could they pushed it more? Maybe, but they pushed it far enough for me. This was pushed more than Venom Let There Be Carnage was, which I think... I love Venom Let There Be Carnage. I absolutely love it, but I do wish they would have pushed the PG-13 boundaries a little more, especially after watching this. I think they really could have, without any problems at all. Because this movie shows that you can push your PG-13 boundaries a little harder. I think the MCU should take some definite lessons from this movie. It would really help them out, because... but I'll get to that in a minute. Anyways, Milo kills the caretaker very brutally, slices him in the stomach. You see the blood. It's colored to be a little darker to make it a little more PG-13, but it's still cool. And then he punches him the caretaker really hard. He escapes. He ends up finding Martine. Martine and Morbius are together now. They kind of got like a love situation going. But Milo finds Martine. Morbius, ends up trying to track Milo down. He finds the caretaker. The caretaker's like, you need to stop Milo. He's beyond redemption. And so Morbius, he uses his echolocation to try and track, the sounds of Martine and Milo, he ends up tracking them. Milo cuts Martine, the other doctor in the throat. Morbius goes to save her. They have like a love relationship going on, which I think is pretty well handled. It's not like overly cheesy, it's not overly cheesy or honestly kind of cringe, like the Amazing Spider-Man 2 romance with Andrew Garfield and Gwen Stacy. And it's not a big thing to the plot. It's very simple. It's very easy. It doesn't like get all lovey gushy, which I'm totally okay with. But it's there. It's there and it's good. It doesn't need to be anything bigger than what it is to me. So they got a good love relationship. Morbius ends up, he's very much against, absorbing human blood and killing his people. But Martine is dying anyways because Milo, sliced her throat with his thumb. So she's dying anyways, basically. She's already dead. And Morbius obviously is super sad, and it's a sad moment. I was sad too. But Morbius ends up, taking a big bite out of her, like any vampire would. Sucks up her blood, and, ends up becoming, powerful again, and really turns into Morbius, the living vampire. And, there's a big fight. He fights with Milo. Another cool thing is that this costume you see right here, I think this is pretty much accurate to what you get. I will say, I guess, and I will get into some nitpicks. They don't really take away from the film for me at all, because I gotta be honest, guys, I love this movie. I thought this movie was awesome. It's probably my 7th favorite superhero movie of all time now. I'm not even joking. It's probably after the Tobey films, No Way Home, Tobey Spider-Man films, No Way Home, the 2 Venom movies, and then it's this movie. I love this movie so much. But this look that you see here with the purple cape, in the black and the purple cape, that is in the final action sequence of the film, like the whatever, I think it's called the climax. That's in the climax of the film where he has that look with the purple cape and stuff. Nice attention to detail. My only problem, I guess, nitpick would be is that I wish he would have had it in more scenes. But again, I also get it because they're trying to establish the origin story, and and it's they don't want to give him that look right away, and I get it. It's the same thing when it comes to setting up Venom, even though they did in the Venom movie they did that earlier. But I would have, but basically, anyways, I'm rambling. But I would have loved to have seen this look a little more, I guess, less towards the end. But the fact that we got it is cool, and it doesn't really bother me. We got that look, so it's pretty cool. It's just cool that they put the comic book accurate purple cape look in the movie. It's really, really cool. This is the exact look that you're going to see in the movie by the time of the climax with the cool purple cape and everything. And the long hair. Yeah, like by the climax of the movie, Morbius looks like the comic book version of Morbius. Not that he done earlier in the movie, but he does go through some changes because they're still trying to get through his origin. But by the end of the movie, he gets this very comic book accurate look with his purple cape, his long hair. It's really, really cool. But anyways, yeah, they fight. They fight. You get some really cool action sequences, which I'm gonna delve more into. And then finally, we're getting very close to the end. Morbius. I'm gonna get into this now because it's freaking awesome. There's a scene where Morbius does a call or whatever, like an echo call, and he ends up calling all these bats, billions of bats, from everywhere towards him. Because the bats and him have a kinship, because he's basically a vampire, and he ends up hard to explain. He has all these bats, billions of bats. I'm not kidding, billions of bats circling around him. And they help him stand up, and he's able to manipulate the bats and use them as a weapon. So he uses all these bats that are around him, and he shoves them at Milo, and he uses the bats to grab the bats. He uses the bats to grab Milo and throw him on the ground. He controls bats. He can make he uses the bats as a fist. He launches a bunch of bats with just his hand. He pushes his hand forwards, and it makes the bats go towards Milo. Then he lifts his hands up, and the bats carry Milo up. And then when Morbius throws his hand on the ground, the bats then throw Milo on the ground. So he has kind of like, he controls the bats basically. He can like make the bats carry somebody. He can make a bunch of bats punch somebody. It's really, really cool. That scene was freaking awesome, and I loved it so much. But anyways, he kills Milo, and then Milo's like, why are you killing me? Which, I mean, at this point, there's no redemption at this point. Like, you could come back from this, I guess, with if you have Jesus in you or whatever. I'm a Christian, by the way. I believe in Jesus, but it's besides the point. But anyways, Morbius ends up like killing Milo, and Milo's like, "Oh, why are you doing this to me? We were friends. Why would you do this? You're the one who gave me my name, Milo." And it's a really good scene. All their interactions and scenes together are just great. Matt Smith and Jared Leto's. So Jared Leto, he's sad. And then we get this ending scene where, the two detectives, they're in and out throughout the movie. I just didn't mention them that much. But the two detectives who are investigating Morbius's whereabouts, the guys that were on the boat, the detectives that were on the boat, they end up coming to this hole in the ground where Morbius and Milo had their fight. Milo is also known in the comics as the villain Hunger, which is a very obscure, vampire character. I don't know that much about him, and apparently he wasn't in the comics that much, but I liked him in the movie. And they go to this hole, the FBI agents do, or detectives, FBI agents, whatever. They're investigators. They're investigating crimes. And the vampire bats, come out of this hole, and billions upon billions of bats just fly out of this hole, and it's just so freaking cool. And then, we get to go to the shot around New York City where bats just come out of everywhere, every crevice, every corner, And, I mean, honestly, this would give Batman a run for his money, because I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not a huge Batman fan at all. I think he's overrated, but that's just my opinion. I like Ben Affleck's Batman. Other than that, I just think he's an overrated character. But this would give Batman an easy run for his money. But anyways, so there are bats everywhere. They're flying around Morbius, and we find out that, the lady, Dr. Martine, Morbius' love interest / girlfriend, she ends up, we thought she was dead, but through Morbius biting her, she turns into a vampire too, and so it kind of teases a sequel. And then the last shot is Morbius flying away from the city with a bunch of bats surrounding him, and the end. And it's awesome, but before I cap the plot off there are two post-credit scenes, which I'm also going to get into more after I get done explaining the plot. But, so I may have to make a part 2 to this, I don't know, because I'm starting to run out of battery. But anyways, I'm going to go through these quickly. So, there's a lot of stuff I want to get into. So, a portal opens up in the sky, and we see that Michael Morbius, Vulture, is teleported to the SonyVerse from the MCU. The Vulture's from Spider-Man Homecoming, if you ever seen that movie with Michael Keaton as the Vulture. Honestly, that's the only thing I liked about Homecoming was Michael Keaton Vulture. Everything else was pretty bad, in my opinion. But anyways, so we see that Michael Morbius, Vulture, shows up in the SonyVerse. He's confused. Everybody's like, how did this random guy get here? He's not listed in the prison records. I think we should just let him go. And then we get to the next post-credit scene where Morbius meets up with the Vulture in a different Vulture outfit. It's not the same one that you see from Homecoming that's made of the Avengers tech or whatever. It's made from scraps and stuff from the Sony universe, which I actually like a lot more. It feels more original. It feels more handmade instead of just taking MCU stuff and compiling it into an MCU suit. I like this suit a lot more that we got at the post-credit scene of Morbius. They meet up, and Morbius, my understanding, I feel like Morbius kind of manipulates, Vulture meets up with Morbius, and Vulture meets up with Morbius, and Vulture, in my opinion, manipulates Morbius into basically joining a team with him. He's like, Doc, I looked you up. I don't know how I got here, but I think this Spider-Man guy had something to do with it. He's trying to make Morbius seem like make Morbius feel that Spider-Man is a bad guy. And he's like, you could team up with us. Maybe you could do some good, because I know you're on the anti-hero path. So maybe you could team up with me, the Vulture, and we could become the Sinister Six, and we could go do some good. And Morbius is like, yeah, that sounds good. So, and that's the end of the movie, and that's the plot. But I really want to just dig into this film, talk a bit more, because I don't have a lot of battery left. So, I'm going to try not to entirely rush through this, but there's a lot of stuff that I also really want to get into about this movie. Okay, got the plot of the movie. Why do I think this movie is awesome? This is what I really wanted to talk about, because this movie is getting ridiculous amounts of hate. It really is getting it's getting ridiculous amounts of hate, and in my opinion, it's getting ridiculous amounts of hate for absolutely no reason. This movie. Why do I think this movie is so awesome? Okay, well, for starters, the thing that I don't think people are talking about, which I don't get at all, is the fact that our protagonist, first off, is this guy who's literally on his deathbed. This guy's dying. Okay, Jared Leto's Michael Morbius before he becomes the vampire. He is on death's row, basically. He is on crutches. He is disabled. He is on near death, and that is what got me. That is what got me instantly engaged into this movie. The opening scene was great, but what got me engaged was seeing this guy on crutches, and that this is the guy that was going to be our protagonist. So I'm like, this is so unique and so creative. Like, you know what? I'm gonna try to hook this up to a charger. So because I really want to dig into this. So you're gonna see a bit of a black screen real quick. Sorry guys, it's just I gotta get to the cord. Let's hope this doesn't stop the video either. I don't know. Hopefully this is gonna work a-okay. Let's see here. Sorry, it's kind of random. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. Sorry, I just got to make sure this is plugged in right. This should be working, but okay, we're just gonna go on. I don't know if it's working or not, or if it's charging, but we're gonna go on. So my point. But yeah, we don't see protagonists like this. You know, let's think about it, right? The MCU. I like the MCU, but when we really think about it, this is something that I think Sony's doing really well. Okay, so anyways, I'm rambling, I know, but Marvel, all the heroes in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right, are these, like, really good-looking professionals. I mean, let's be honest. You got Chris Hemsworth, you know, good-looking, you know, and I'm not gay, I'm a straight guy, but, you know, he's a good-looking guy, you know, he has electrical powers, he's Thor, he's like a god of thunder. You got Scarlett Johansson, you know, she's really hot, she's like a special FBI agent, you got Iron Man. He's this guy who's very smart and knows a lot about tech, and he created his own suit. You know, I mean, you got Captain America. He was like a World War II leader. He's also pretty good looking, I guess. And like, he's special because, you know, he was the first super soldier. The thing I like about Morbius, you know, is that he's not like any of those MCU characters. He's special, but he's not like, you know, I'm a high-ranking assassin. I'm a god of thunder. You know, he's just like he's a doctor. He's super smart, but he's also, at the end of the day, compared to the MCU characters, he's very average. He's very normal. He's just a very smart guy. And that's what I love about this movie. He's just an average guy. He's not like this, you know, and I'm not trying to insult Jared Leto. I don't want people to think I'm trying to insult Jared Leto or the movie. That's why I love this movie. It's because he's just a regular dude, but he's very smart. And the thing that adds to the interest for me of this character is that he's not only smart and he's regular. You can, I feel like you can kind of relate to him a little more. But also because, you know, he's dying. He's, handicapped. He has to use crutches to get everywhere. And it's kind of depressing and sad in a way that he has to deal with this blood disease and that he can't get healed from it. I mean, how many other superhero movies can you name that has a protagonist like this? The only one that comes to mind is The Incredible Hulk. And yeah, Bruce Banner has it bad. Don't get me wrong. Edward Norton's Bruce Banner has it bad in the movie. You know, he's not very fortunate, but, you know, he's kind of poor, but Michael Morbius is dying. He's dying from this disease, and he has to use crutches to get around, but yet he still works. He isn't lazy about it. He doesn't use his disability as an excuse to get away, to be lazy, you know, which Milo does in the film. Michael Morbius, no, he works. He works tirelessly to find a cure for his disease. He takes care of his patients. Jared Leto does such a good job at portraying this character. I like Jared Leto's Joker. I think his Joker is good. Have you seen Zack Snyder's Justice League? That scene between him and Batman was good. But his Morbius role, in my opinion, is far better. I'm going to be honest. He really pulled off Michael Morbius. He pulled off this disabled guy who couldn't. There are scenes where he's walking and his legs aren't working right, and they're not functioning properly. And I might as well say I am handicapable. I am in a wheelchair. I'm just gonna go ahead and get that out there. Who cares? So that's why I'm kind of really getting into this. I am a handicap. I have cerebral palsy. I am in a wheelchair. But anyways, yeah. So Morbius does a really good job of playing this handicapped person. Walking around with his legs all bent and stuff, and all bent everywhere, and having to use crutches to get around. It's really, really cool, and it's just a very different take on a protagonist. You just see this guy, he's dying. His friend is dying, and there's this really good conversation between them where early on in the film, they're just talking to each other, minding their own. They're just talking to each other, having a genuine conversation. It's not the quippy stuff that you get in the MCU films. It's actual, genuine human conversations between two people who have disabilities and who are disabled and who are on the verge of dying. It's genuine human conversation, which I feel like we don't really get in the MCU anymore. We just get quippy jokes, and sitcom jokes, And I love the interactions between Morbius and Lucius, Jared Leto and Matt Smith for that reason alone. Their interactions are just so human, and they're so relatable, and they're so real. It's one of those movies where it's a real movie. It's more based reality, but it's still comic booky enough to where you buy it. It's not like The Dark Knight where it's so realistic that it takes you out of it. This doesn't feel like a superhero movie. This feels like a mystery movie with Batman in it. It's not that at all. It still has comic book elements, believe me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be as into it. But because I like some really dark superhero movies, like Morbius, for example. But I don't like it when they go over the edge, like The Dark Knight, because I feel like that just went way too dark for no reason. It almost felt like it was trying to be too edgy. This Morbius had a purpose for being dark, in my opinion, and did it really well. But anyways, yeah, so they're just real characters. He's a smart guy, but he's not like some freaking, six-pack Chris Hemsworth or whatever who shoots thunder, and he's not like this hot, Russian chick with red hair, nice thighs or whatever. Nice, let's be honest, Scarlett Johansson is pretty, has some pretty, she's nice looking, right? So, yeah, it's not like he's a super specialized agent or the first super soldier, or he's like a billionaire who can build his own weapon. No, he's just normal. He's a normal guy. He's just a really good doctor. And that's what I love about these Sony movies. Even with the Venom and Eddie Brock is just a journalist. He's really just, he's even more average than Morbius is. They're just both such average people, but they're just really good at their jobs. And that's what I love about these Sony Marvel movie protagonists, is that they're average people, but they're just really good at their jobs, and they're just really smart. They're not and I don't mean this as a diss. I know people are going to take this as I'm dissing the movie or dissing the character, whatever. I'm saying this in a positive way, because I'm tired of seeing all these movies where, oh, look, it's more sitcom jokes, we got to connect everything to everything now, and all these characters have to be so special, and they got to be special with everything, because they're perfect, and it's I don't need that all the time. I'm cool with just having a normal guy who's really good at his job, who's just really smart, and who has cool abilities. It's the characters were great, the interactions were great between Morbius. Jared Leto did a good job portraying a disabled person who also has, vampire powers. Matt Smith does a good job. I'm trying not to rush, but I don't know if the charger's working, so it could go off in any minute, so I'm trying to see. I like Matt Smith's character, Milo. He's cool. He's kind of whiny at the end, but he's the bad guy, and plus they don't make him cringy like freaking Dane DeHaan's Green Goblin. It's not cringy like that. He actually does a really good job, and Matt Smith is Milo really cams it up for the audience. And it's very cheesy, but it's very funny. It's very, very funny. He does a good job as playing the bad guy. And you do kind of feel for Milo in a sense, because there's a scene where he gets a letter from Morbius, he loses it, and then some kids come by him, they take his letter, and they start beating him up. And this is when he's handicapped, too. And they keep beating the crap out of him, and so you feel kind of bad for him. And you kind of get where he's coming from, because, he's disabled, he gets his vampire cure, he gets his blood disease removed, and he's normal, and he feels all happy and cheery about it. He's like, yes, I'm finally not disabled anymore. I can go do whatever I want. Women won't look at me differently, or people won't look at me differently anymore, which I don't want to get too into the personal stuff, but that's how I feel sometimes. Sometimes I feel like, hey, it'd be cool to walk, run, or whatever. I'm not doing it for pity. I just bring up an example, right? But I understand how people can feel that way, so I liked that relatability there. And I don't. So yeah. But anyways, so yeah, he did a good job, Milo. I liked Martine. I thought the love interest was cool. It wasn't over the top like the freaking Tatum 2 movies where it was like, oh, I don't know, what's some of that dialogue? It's like, oh, you're doing the nose thing, the cute little nose thing. You can't. You're going in the face of my ground rules. All that cringy stuff in Tasm 2. Which I'm sorry, I know they're in a relationship. I couldn't stand that. But no, the romance is cool. It's not overly cheesy. It's fine. It's simple. It's what it needs to be. And there's enough there with the romance to where you care. You care about the relationship, and you're sad to see Martine kind of sort of die at the end, but she really doesn't. Oh man, what else? I just love that this story is so dark, and it takes a serious tone, and it's very character driven, and you feel bad for Morbius. You feel bad for Michael that he has to deal with this curse of turning into this vampire, possibly feeding on human blood. It's got some horror elements at times. It's got some sad, serious storytelling moments at times. It's got some funny story elements at some times. It's a really perfect balance for everything that I would want in this movie. It is such a breath of fresh air to get a movie like this where it's not sitcom jokes, because we gotta have our sitcom jokes, because if we don't have humor all the time, the movie's terrible. And it's not like, action sequence here, action sequence there. I love action, but the action is cool, because Morbius has action, but it's placed in very good ways. It doesn't overtake the story. And also, big thing I had to give a shout out to this movie, it's a solo superhero movie. No connective tie-ins. No, oh look, here's Thor. Look at Thor showing up in Iron Man for no reason. We don't really need him in the story. He doesn't suit the story, but we're going to have him in there so you fans know that, this is still all a connected universe, even though you beat us on the head with that all the time, Marvel, Disney. But we got to be reminded, right? Even if you got to shove it down our throats. But anyways, so yeah, but here's the thing. Here's what this movie does smartly that the MCU, I guess, doesn't understand, is that there are Easter eggs and references in this movie, but they're not beating you over the head with it to the point where it takes you out of the story. There are three or four references in the movie, two of which are to Venom. It's a mission. It's a good mission. It's just in words. The detective is like, oh, what about that incident in San Francisco, And then Morbius makes a joke where he's like, I am Venom, and there's a Spider-Man reference at the end where Vulture mentions Spider-Man. Now we need to get revenge on him. They're good references, and they're enough. They are enough, in my opinion. They don't need to be any more than that. They don't need to be any more than that. They're good. They're small. They don't take away from the story. They are absolutely perfect, and that's what these references should be. I don't need Spider-Man to show up in my Morbius film to make it good. I think that's, in my opinion, it's ridiculous. I think this movie stands on its own just fine. It doesn't need Spider-Man to make it good, and I don't get that mentality. It's the same thing with Venom. I love Spider-Man. I have a huge Spider-Man comic book collection. I love the character. I love Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man specifically. But that doesn't mean I need Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man to show up in my Tom Hardy Venom movie to make it good. That's a ridiculous statement, in my opinion. And if you're going to see this movie for Easter eggs, why not just look up the Easter eggs on YouTube? Why would you pay $7 just to go watch a solo superhero movie just to see Easter eggs? Why would you pay money for that? You do what you want. I'm not trying to be insulting. You can like what you like. I'm not trying to be a jerk about it. I personally don't get that. I personally don't get that view. I don't at all. I saw this movie because I wanted to see this movie. I wanted to see, and yeah, I saw it. Okay, yes, I saw it because Morbius is obviously based off of a Spider-Man film. I saw it because of that. Which, yeah, okay, I'm sure you can make that argument towards me too, but I didn't see it for the Easter eggs. Like, I saw it for the fact that he was based off of a Spider-Man film through the previews and through the little knowledge I have. I didn't see it because of the Easter eggs that connect everything to everything. The fact that this movie told a really good story and stood on its own was amazing. I'm so glad we didn't have any of that interconnectedness in the movie. Like, now again, I know people are going to be like, oh, you're an MCU hater, you hate Disney. No, I don't. I love the MCU. I love the Avengers movies. I love The Incredible Hulk, which feels very much like Morbius. The Incredible Hulk and Morbius are basically, I swear, the guy who directed this must have loved The Incredible Hulk, because this movie, Morbius is The Incredible Hulk, but with a vampire. That's literally what this movie is, and I'm saying that as a good thing, because I love The Incredible Hulk. And if you watch both movies back to back, you're going to see the similarities very quick. Like Morbius, like, Edward Norton's Bruce Banner always looks at his watch constantly, just checks his rates. Edward Norton, Bruce Banner and an Incredible Hulk would check his watch for, like, his anger and stuff. Morbius checks his watch to, like, keep track of his blood, how they both refer to, Edward Norton's Bruce Banner and, Jared Leto's Michael Morbius, they both refer to, their condition is like a curse. I want to find, it's all cursed. It's cursed. It's a curse. This thing takes control of me and I don't know what to do. And also, both movies, The Incredible Hulk and Morbius both have that dark and dramatic tone that you don't see in a lot of superhero movies. A lot of people are saying this movie's generic, and I kind of get it from, like, if you're generalizing it in terms of all films ever made. But if we're talking about superhero movies, this is actually, I disagree with that wholeheartedly. I don't get that comment at all. This actually is a very original, Morbius, I'm saying it now, is a very original superhero movie. Very original. Like, yeah, The Incredible Hulk technically did it first, I guess. A couple of other movies, but it's very original in the fact that we don't get dark movies like this a lot. We don't get movies based on the C-list characters like this a lot, and I think that's what we need. We need more movies like Morbius. We need more movies like Morbius. I don't care what anybody says. You disagree with me, that's fine. We need more movies like Morbius, though. I don't want to have the MCU all the time. I like the MCU. I don't need it to be a constant. We need to have variety. Okay, that's what makes this world great, right? Is we have variety. We can either get pizza or we can get burgers. It doesn't have to be pizza all the time, which, granted, I would like that because I love pizza, but regardless, we don't need to have pizza all the time. We can have cheeseburgers. We can have steak, It doesn't need to be the MCU every time, every hour, every day. We can have variety. It's good to have variety. It's good to have movies that are darker and aren't as jokey all the time. And it's good to have movies, on the other side, it's good to have movies that are jokey and fun and not dark all the time. We need that variety. So the people who want to shut down Sony and say that these movies are crappy just because they haven't seen it is ridiculous, in my opinion. That's your opinion. I think it's slightly ridiculous, but that's your opinion. And Morbius is just a fantastic movie. We need more movies like Morbius. The characters were great. Story was dark. There were some really emotional moments in the movie. With Jared Leto struggling to, like, control his, like, darker vampire side. There are very emotional moments like that. The way his powers are used are actually also really, really cool. Morbius, they utilize his powers in very creative ways. Or, like, when he flies, there'll be, like, there'll be, like, smoke. Looks like it's coming off of him and stuff like that. And then the vampires move very fast. And they do some really cool camera tricks. And when he's flying, there's this cool scene where it stops and goes in slow motion. And there's wind, like, passing Morbius very slowly. It's hard to describe. You just gotta go see it. If you like the action sequences in the Venom movies and how visually creative they are, you need to go see this movie because they do the exact same thing. But I'm sure I didn't cover everything I wanted to in this review, but I think my battery might go out in a minute. So what else? What else is there? Oh, let's get into the post-credit scenes and why people think it's ridiculous, even though it really isn't. Okay, so the people were saying, Vulture showing up, Morbius at the end is ridiculous because the Doctor Strange spell wasn't meant to be like that. It was supposed to just erase Peter's memory at the end of No Way Home, but instead it got Vulture teleported to Morbius' world at the end of it. And, okay, and I get it, kind of, but at the same time, it's like, this is comic book logic, okay? This is a superhero movie. People look in and nitpick into this. I just don't understand. This isn't Shakespeare, guys. This isn't, it's a superhero movie based off of a comic book. I'm pretty sure the multiverse in comic books, it doesn't even make sense half the time. I mean, I got this crossover called Marvel vs. DC, and Marvel and DC as universes are illustrated through, are envisioned as like these giant Voltron robots who like to fight each other. It makes no sense and it's ridiculous. So the multiverse is ridiculous in a fun way. But so I don't know why people nitpick at that. I liked the scene, the other one where Vulture's meeting up with Morbius, and he's like, you want to team up? People are like, oh, that's so stupid. Why would Morbius team up with Vulture? And I kind of agree because Morbius is kind of smart, but at the same time, I think Vulture's manipulating Morbius into thinking that Spider-Man is a bad guy because he's saying like, you're a doctor, you want to do some good. Spider-Man brought me here, I didn't choose to be here, he's a menace. So he's trying to convince Morbius that maybe Spider-Man's a bad guy and that he knows that since Morbius is kind of like being an anti-hero now, that maybe, he'll want to team up and like take out the Spider-Man menace. That's just my thoughts and opinions on it. But okay, let's go into the nitpicks. Real quick, because I honestly, you want my rating on this movie? I give it a 9 or like an 8.8 or an 8.5 out of 10. That's where I rank this movie. It's my seventh favorite superhero movie of all time. I'm not even kidding. I love this movie. I've seen it 3 times. I'm gonna probably go see it another time, maybe even 2 more times. But anyways, nitpicks real quick. Nitpicks. Okay, real quick. Morbius. Okay, so I wish when like Michael Morbius transformed into Morbius the vampire, I think it would have been cool to like give him like a dark voice like Venom. Because now in Venom, Eddie transforms into Venom, he has like a different dark voice when he talks. It's not Eddie's voice, it's Venom's voice. I wish they could have done something like that where when Michael Morbius transformed into Morbius, instead of just like roaring and growling all the time, which I thought was awesome, don't get me wrong, I think it would have been cool if he had like a dark voice. Like, he's like I'm, Michael Morbius, I'm Morbius. He has like a dark voice or whatever when he talks. So it doesn't sound like Michael, it sounds like, Morbius. He's very dark, he has this dark voice. They didn't do that. They kind of alluded to the fact that he could, that they thought about doing it, but no, they didn't do it in the movie. But again, nitpick, it undistracted from my love for the film. I love this movie. I think it would have been cool. Just something I think it would have been cool if they gave him like a Morbius dark voice. Like when Michael Morbius transforms into Morbius the living vampire, they gave him like a dark voice like Venom. But it's whatever. I thought all the visuals and sequences were cool. The action sequence towards the end, I will say, is a little muddled. Like, it is hard to tell who's fighting who because they go so quick. So I wish the action sequences, mainly at the end, honestly, at the end, the final scene, I wish it would have been a little cleaner. You could tell who's kind of punching who, because they do kind of rush through the fighting a little bit. You can't see who's fighting who a little bit. But again, nitpick, and then it's just another nitpick. Something else I had a problem with, but I think I resolved it. But I think that might be it, guys. Those are only my 2 nitpicks. The cool Morbius voice would have been cool, and the fight scenes could have been a little clearer because it was hard to tell at times who was fighting who. Like when they're going into the ground and they're pushing each other to the ground, it's hard to see who's punching who in this situation. But I think that's all my nitpicks, guys. Okay, so basically to chop this thing off, go see Morbius. Just go. You can do whatever you want to do. If you don't want to see it, that's cool. If you don't, that's cool. If you do, awesome. In my opinion, I think you should go support Morbius. I think we need more superhero movies like Morbius, like Venom. I want to see Sony's universe grow. I want to see these solo villain films keep coming. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm legit serious about this. This is as serious as I can possibly get. Would I take I'm a huge fan of the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies. If you watch my previous videos, you would know that. And would I rather take a Spider-Man 4 with Tobey Maguire, right? Or would I rather take more solo Sony villain movies? You know what my answer is? More solo Sony villain movies. I love Tobey Maguire. I love his Spider-Man, but honestly, live-action Spider-Man, it's gotten pretty repetitive. It's honestly, it's done to death at this point. If it were up to me, after No Way Home, I would scrap all the live-action installments, and I would just focus on making these villain movies based off of Spider-Man characters, and then just continuing with like the Sony Spider-Verse. I might not even have Spider-Man show up in the live-action films. I probably just wouldn't even do it. I would have like maybe references, but I probably wouldn't have like a live-action Spider-Man show up if it were all up to me. I would just continue Spider-Man and the animated Spider-Verse stuff, and I would just continue with the solo Sony villain Spider-Man spin-off movies, yeah. So that's how serious I am about this. I would rather have more Sony villain Spider-Man spin-off movies than I would a Spider-Man 4. I'm dead serious. Because I think the way that Sony's doing this is very creative. It gives us something different. And I think it's a good way to evolve the Spider-Man live-action franchise. Instead of giving us, like a 8th or 9th or 10th live-action Spider-Man for the 20th, 10th, whatever time, we get more like spin-off movies based off of Spider-Man villains. We have enough live-action Spider-Man, in my opinion. We got like 6 movies. Why don't we give live-action Spider-Man a break and just focus on these solo villain spin-off movies based on the Spider-Man character? Like, I think that's a cool and creative way to like evolve the live-action Spider-Man franchise. Keep the animated films, right? Keep the Spider-Verse films, but just focus on like the live-action Sony villain spin-off movies based off of Spider-Man. That's just my opinion, though. And those are my thoughts on Morbius. Honestly, Morbius is awesome. It's a great movie. I don't get the hate at all. If you don't like it, that's cool. We all have our own opinions, and I respect yours if you don't like it. If you just don't like it, that's totally cool. I understand that. I'm like that way with some movies, too. But if you're hating on it just to hate on it, I think that's ridiculous. You're allowed to. It's your opinion, but I think it's ridiculous. Because this movie is really good. It's creative. And we need a variety. We need a variety in superhero movies. We need to evolve the superhero movie. We need to evolve the superhero movie industry, in my opinion. It doesn't need to be MCU all the time. We can take chances. We can take risks, even in the superhero movie environment. Spawn, Bloodshot with Vin Diesel, Like, let's give other superhero movies a chance, But yeah, go watch Morbius. It's awesome. I give it a 9 to 8.5 out of 10. And yeah, just go support Morbius if you can. Like, go support. People are telling you not to. You can choose what you want to do. I don't really care. You're your own person. But in my opinion, I think you should go support Morbius. Go support Morbius. It deserves your money. It's underrated. Morbius is probably going to end up being a cult classic in a few years anyway. So just go support the movie. And the Morbius isn't making a lot of money right now. It's not making Venom money. And I wanted to cover this real quick because I almost forgot about it. Do I see them making another Morbius 2 movie if this movie keeps being successful? I gotta be honest with you, I don't know. I really don't know. I think what they'll do with Morbius is that they'll probably put him in I think Morbius, because it didn't make a lot of money as like the 2 Venom movies, but still made enough money. I don't think they'll go with a solo Morbius 2. I think they'll probably just do something where like Morbius will show up in the Craven movie as like a cameo, and then it'll be in team-up movies. Because, Morbius made money, it's making money, but it's not, I don't think it's going to make as much money as Venom or Venom 2. So Sony's going to be like, why would we want to waste money on another solo Morbius 2, right? When we could just team him up with Venom, and then, since he's teamed up with Venom in a team-up movie, Venom can help us to make more money, added on with what Morbius already made us. Stuff like that. So I would love to see a solo Morbius 2. I want it to happen so badly. If they do make the team-up movies, I'm down for that too. In my opinion, I would love to see a solo Morbius 2, though. We need a solo Morbius 2, hashtag whatever, Morbius 2, because we need a Morbius 2. So, that's my review, guys. Morbius is awesome. I loved it. This isn't a joke. It's legit serious. 9 out of 10, 8.5 out of 10. Go support this movie. We need more movies like this that are more creative and have protagonists like this, and that have darker stories like this. And that everything's not all MCU-ified, right? So, this has been Dark Storm Comic Reviews signing off. And goodbye. And, have a good day and stuff.